It's almost surreal that this product finally exists. Yes, the Pixel Watch is finally here and available as Google's first self-branded Wear OS smartwatch, nearly a decade into the platform's existence. Is it any good? Well, this is our full review. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. So getting out of the way, the Pixel Watch is a gorgeous piece of hardware. From the dome design to the curved glass to the compact size and the bands that blend right into the stainless steel chassis. Everything comes together for a gorgeous piece of tech. The Pixel Watch is certainly though on the fancy end of the spectrum, especially in its polished silver and gold variants, but paired with the active band, it fits pretty well too as a sport watch. We think Google deserves a little bit of credit for striking that balance. It's something that is tough to achieve, and only on Apple has Apple really put that off to date. Google takes things a step further though, since this looks like an actual watch or a traditional watch, not just a stylish computer or squared off computer on your wrist. The 41mm chassis of the Pixel Watch is very much on the smaller side though, which we were quite worried about, especially for those with slightly larger wrists. While it does look a little bit small, it actually manages to be very compact without being too small for people with thick wrists. Some people will feel that the Pixel Watch is a bit too thick, but the compact size does help make sure that that is as much of a non-issue as it can be. The curved glass design also means that areas where a thicker watch might prove to be annoying, such as when you're wearing long sleeve shirts, are mostly negated here, but not completely. Hopefully the use of Gorilla Glass 5 does hold up. This is a design that's going to make effectively screen protectors really difficult to get or incredibly ugly on top of that, and damage is going to be a when situation rather than an if, because you are front and center putting that screen in harm's way quite regularly. Perhaps the only other major problem in terms of the design of the Pixel Watch is that stainless steel finish. The chassis itself picks up fingerprints and oils incredibly quickly, and it's hard to keep clean for any sort of length of time. The matte black model does seem to fare better in this area, but it might be worth a look for that reason alone. Front and center on the hardware though is that circular display of the Pixel Watch, a 1.2-inch AMOLED panel, and while it is on the smaller side, at no point have we felt too constricted with the size outside of having a bit of trouble reading some longer messages and certain notifications. The UI as a whole is designed well around this size, and we'll get to that a little bit shortly. The quality of the panel is excellent overall, with a vibrant look and deep blacks that help the UI feel like it's part of the hardware, not just being shown on a normal display. UI elements look pretty sharp overall, but you can see a little bit of pixelation in some watch faces. Plus, outdoor viewing is a breeze overall. That said, it can be quite reflective, with the panel being particularly bright, especially when in visible direct sunlight. The bezels around the Pixel Watch's display, they're not small, that's certainly true, but they're not quite as noticeable, to me at least, unless you're looking for them. Google software has done a really excellent job of blending the content on the screen to the edges of that display. Yes, you can spot them in direct sunlight or at a certain angle, or even when using the torch application, but we're not quite sure it's the issue that at least we expected it to be. Technically, there are 4 buttons found on the Pixel Watch, but 2 of these are actually for swapping out the bands that you attach to the Pixel Watch. There are only 2 buttons on the side that have any utility, at least for the software experience. The digital crown is the first of those 2, with a rotating design to help you move through UI elements, and a press action on top of that turns on the display or opens the app drawer, goes back to the watch face and interacts with that depending on the state of the watch itself. A double click of this button also opens the Google Wallet for quick payments as you need them. That said, the tactile push of the button and the precise click of the haptic motor in conjunction with that crown itself are genuinely wonderful to use and really help sell that premium experience you're paying for. Without a doubt, these are the best haptics that we've ever used on a Wear OS smartwatch, and that includes Samsung's excellent Galaxy Watch lineup. That said, you can disable the haptics entirely or just turn off the crown's vibration if you choose to do so. The only other button is hidden from view on the edge of the chassis, which does make it a little bit hard to get used to, at least at first. A single click of this opens up the multitasking menu, not the app drawer, while a double click does open up your most recent application. A long press activates the Google Assistant, which works really well here. You can't customize any of these gestures, which is an absolute crying shame. Samsung similarly blocks these from changing some of these buttons based upon its Galaxy Watch Wear OS version of software, but at least it leaves some of these buttons up to the user. So it's disappointing to see that Google haven't made these available. Realistically though, it's probably fine that the button is locked to these functions, as they're quite sensible, but it would have been great to see a second button on the hardware to serve as a custom shortcut to an app or a function that you want quick access to. We'll have much more to say on the Pixel Watch's bands in the coming weeks as we have the chance to try out more of them, but let's touch on the active band that you will probably see and does ship by default on your Pixel Watch order. The simple silicone band is virtually identical to the Infinity band that is used by Fitbit smartwatches and many other fitness trackers. It's a soft rubbery feeling texture that's pretty darn comfortable and fairly easy to put on. The clasp provides plenty of security, and the attach points for adjusting the length of the band are frequent enough where you'll find them comfortable, or at least find a comfortable position for you. Google does include both large and small versions of the band in the box with your order too, so if you're worried about the size, you should have one that fits you right available from the get-go. In general use from exercise and sleep tracking and general wear, the active band is very comfortable. It's thin enough to feel like it's not there all the time, and it's fairly secure. Sadly though, you might get some skin irritation due to this design of using silicone bands over time, but that may depend on your own skin. That said, just take it off every so often, give it a wipe. That can relieve some of these problems. Unlike the vast majority of Android-compatible smartwatches though, the Pixel Watch introduces a completely unique band connector. It slots into the top of the watch with a twisting motion and releases using a button. It does take a little bit of practice to get right, but it is definitely a lot faster in our experience than a traditional pin setup. Straps though are harder to connect if the connector is not attached directly to the band, as is the case with the active band luckily. In our brief usage, putting the leather bands on will be harder. More to come though on Google's additional bands as we get more hands-on time with them. But like any brand new and proprietary system, this is going to prove a headache for buyers, at least for a while. Price and availability are core concerns at this stage, but once you get used to it, it is a nice system and one that we hope that Google will build out over time. So with the Pixel Watch, this is actually our first look at Google's own take on Wear OS 3, Wear OS 3.5 actually, to be exact. Largely the foundation of this experience is the same as what Wear OS has been building though up for years. The home screen of the entire platform is the watch face, which you can customize with a long press. Watch faces are pre-installed, just shy of 20 on this device, and you can install third-party options from the Play Store. Each though watch will bring a new look to the device, and you can customize what appears on them with extra complications, which are just miniature widgets that can pull data from apps installed upon your smartwatch. You can customize watch faces from the app on your phone, including the colors and complications if you wish, and prefer not to do that on your smartwatch though. Scrolling to either side of the watch facing, you'll find the Tiles section, which are just full screen widgets that are powered by apps on your watch, primarily including Google's own apps such as Weather, Fitbit, YouTube Music, and a few others. Some third-party options are there, but it is primarily Google's shop for now. Still, you can find useful functions here, and the library is expected to grow in time, and we're hoping to see more as the time and months progress. Swiping up from the watch face shows you a list of your notifications from your paired Android phone. At this point in time, the Pixel Watch actually isn't compatible with the iPhone, so you're going to have to use this with your Android. By default though, it mirrors all notifications except system notifications directly from your device. You can block specific apps though, as you see fit. Swiping down from the watch face or using the crown to scroll down reveals a list of settings and shortcuts. You can't actually customize this section, but it includes pretty sensible shortcuts that you'll need. The full list includes things such as the battery level and battery saver shortcut, the settings sections shortcut, turning your ringer on and off, enabling bedtime mode, which disables tilt to wake, mutes all notifications and alarms and priority calls. There's also the do not disturb mode, a theater mode, which just turns the screen off, mutes the ringer and disables that tilt to wake function. There's the airplane mode, find my phone, a brightness shortcut and touch lock. There's also a flashlight toggle and Google Wallet included, but there is a new one here for Google Home. Sadly though, you can't customize this list, but it is a fairly sensible set of options all the same. Pressing the crown opens the app drawer on this watch, as we mentioned, but this shows a revamped UI, which is probably going to be new compared to at least Wear OS watches you've seen before. The list of apps looks fairly okay, but it does feel a little bit like wasted space. Pressing that crown button, as we mentioned, opens up the app drawer, which shows a revamped UI compared to Wear OS watches you've probably used before. And this list of apps looks okay, but it feels like wasted space as it's a list rather than a section of icons. One of the biggest upgrades in terms of usability on Wear OS 3 though is with multitasking, where the older versions forced you to go to the watch face and then the app drawer, then to the apps that you want to use every single time. Wear OS 3 has a recent apps menu that shows you your latest applications or most recently used. You can double click that top button on the Pixel Watch to quickly swap back and forth between applications, or click once to see a list of recently used apps. It's a huge upgrade to the overall experience, and it's one that makes us want to use more apps on the Play Store, not that it's littered with a vast array of options. A pretty minor point of controversy over the past week though has been with software updates for this platform. Google says that the Pixel Watch will get updates through at least October 2025, 3 years from its release date. For a $350 smartwatch, you're going to have to decide if that's right for you. That said, it does ship with Android 11, and it has a patch from July 2022 pre-installed for what it's worth. Updates seem less important here, but it will be up to you how you decide and vote with your wallet. In terms of fitness in our limited testing though, the Pixel Watch felt pretty darn similar to using a Fitbit product for those that are interested. Like other Fitbits, the Pixel Watch will track your heart rate continuously to detect your activity levels and collect active zone minutes, as well as your step count. The Fitbit app can also use this data to collect or detect smaller workouts like walks and count those towards your weekly goals. You can also manually track workouts, but the Pixel Watch actually lacks the ability to automatically detect workouts, at least at this stage, and Google tells us that this functionality might arrive at a later date. When manually tracking workouts though, you use the Fitbit Exercise App on the Pixel Watch this time around, one of 3 Fitbit apps on the smartwatch. You'll see your most recent workouts at the top of the interface with a list of 40 different types of workouts within this application. One annoyance is that once you do start a workout, you actually can't see any incoming notifications while you're using it. That's probably fine for some of those more intense workouts where you don't want distractions, but it is a bit of a bummer when you're doing something that allows you to look at your watch, as you'll have to leave the app to see your notifications, but it's not a major problem all the same. Here's the thing about Fitbit on the Pixel Watch though. For the basic user who wants an overall picture of their daily fitness and the occasional ability to track workouts, it's pretty good. The design is simple and it's easy to understand, and the Fitbit app is a delight for tracking data and setting goals. But if you use Fitbit on the Pixel Watch, it's a compromised experience compared to dedicated trackers such as the Fitbit Versa 4 or even the Sense 2, as those devices support more stress tracking, more workouts, and just more fitness features overall. So you may want to look there if fitness is a core tenet of experience that you want. That said, for the core offer here, it's a decent experience, but it's just not quite as good as the smartwatches Google is going up against. That said, if you just want basic tracking and don't care about Fitbit whatsoever, you can still use Google Fit if you wish, but you will need to install that manually from the Play Store on your watch. By far the biggest concern around the Pixel Watch ahead of its launch, besides the performance levels which are absolutely fine and smooth as silk, was the battery life, and rightfully so. The Pixel Watch runs on an older chip and has a mere 294 mAh cell powering the show, so it stands to reason that people might question it. Here's the crux of it: yes, the battery life on the Pixel Watch isn't nearly as bad as you might have feared. That said, it's still not the best in the business. Google claims that the Pixel Watch can manage around 24 hours on a single charge, and we'd say that's roughly accurate. To get that full 24 hours on a charge though, we'd say leave that always on display disabled. That's all we needed to actually adjust or even tweak to achieve such a proposed lifespan. The biggest problem here is that battery life on smartwatches is so incredibly personalized that it will vary drastically from person to person, and with the Pixel Watch, battery life will be something that isn't the same for two people. For some it will be unacceptably bad, for others it might be forgettably fine. I can't actually speak for myself as I've had limited time, but when using this watch, hitting the charger before bed with 35% left over was common, but you will actually need 30% or above 30% for sleep tracking to work here. The thing is, Pixel Watch battery life clearly is not dreadful. It's not good either, as far as we'd say. The Galaxy Watch 5, the 44mm, needs none of these boosts throughout the day, or at least charging throughout the day to make it through them. Charging once in the morning was plenty to keep that watch charged up, but it is something to know. If you're expecting this to be a one and done, it might not be the watch for you, but it is something to trial. It can last a day and nothing more. For some, the Pixel Watch battery life is going to be good, but you may get a bit of battery anxiety towards the end of the day, and surely problems when you deviate from your normal routine, as you would with a lot of other pieces of tech anyway. So knowing everything we did before launch, we actually went into this testing process with the Pixel Watch with reasonably low expectations, and frankly, we're not unhappy with this wearable. The battery life is not particularly great, but it's manageable. The Fitbit integration is a little bit lacking, but it's still enough or still superior to Google Fit. And really, that's how most aspects of the Pixel Watch at least feel to us. They're not quite ideal, but they seem just about good enough. This is, of course, the first generation of Google's smartwatch, and things are surely going to get better. And even with software updates, we're hoping that things might improve here too. The Pixel Watch overall is a good first attempt at a smartwatch, but it's not the best smartwatch you can buy for your Android phone. On the whole, we'd still agree that the Galaxy Watch 5 is a more polished option and much better value. If you do want the Pixel Watch, we'd say wait for your chance to score it at a discount, or if you have pre-ordered a Pixel 7, use the Google credit that has been given to you to get the watch for a lot cheaper. But at a well lower price, it's worth it, but at $349, it does feel like a stretch given the current state of it. We want to hear what you think about the Pixel Watch. Overall, I have to say that the performance levels with the Exynos 9110 processor and that co-processor on top have absolutely wowed me here. I'm so impressed by how smooth it is, but everything else just doesn't quite seem up to, say, the Galaxy Watch 4 and 5, which I've personally been wearing for a long time. I think overall most people should be looking there, but again, let us know what you think down in the comment sections below. As always though, this is Damien with 95 Google, and I will speak to you later.